Magic in Skyrim sucks. Yeah, you heard right. In a video all about using magic, my intro is to tell you magic is terrible. If you have ever played Skyrim before, I almost certainly did need to tell you this, but magic is bad. So bad in fact that most people complete the entire College of Winterhold questline without ever casting a spell. I am of course no exception. But what if we played the game as the devs intended? What if we gave magic a fair try? Maybe we'll find out we were wrong about magic this whole time. For today's adventure into the world of magic, we have employed the soon-to-be greatest mage of all time, Gandalf the Grey. Now it's probably a good time to talk about what the objectives and limits of this run are. We have three main objectives for the run. First, to complete the entire main quest of the college. Second, to complete all the side quests for the college. And lastly, to master and max all 5 magic schools. Now the limits of this run are pretty simple. We have to play as a pure mage on expert difficulty. This means magic and its associated skills, meaning alchemy and enchanting, are allowed. However, pretty much everything else is banned, with the exception of speech since we are going to be buying and selling stuff within the college. After barely dodging the Executioner's Axe and siding with the objectively correct Imperials, we get our binds cut off and we are able to equip our first spells. Since we played as a high elf, we had a bit of a buff to our magic skills, and we were able to start using them on the Stormcloaks as we would escape Helgen. We had planned to get the set of mage robes in the jail like you normally would. However, to get the free mage robes and spell tome, you were supposed to lockpick a cell. As lockpicking isn't allowed in this run, we would sadly have to leave the robes behind. Unfortunately, in the first few hours of the run, Skyrim would have some really bad frame issues, but fortunately it was only a minor issue and we would eventually get it sorted. With the burnt smell of roasted bear, we reached the exit of Helgen and it was finally time to set foot into Skyrim proper and truly start the run. As we left Helgen, we were prompted about survival mode. Figuring this was a challenge run of sorts, I would turn it on. With that, we would start making our way to Riverwood, grabbing every alchemy ingredient we could find on the way. As we walked to Riverwood, we would stop to grab the Mage Stone to boost XP we get for magic. With how much we had to level magic this run, it would be very important for later. Reaching Riverwood, we would take everything we could off the blacksmith and start the main story. Fortunately, he was kind enough to give us pants, which doesn't offer physical protection, but it does protect the little dignity I have left. Our first to-do was to tell Jarl Balgruuf about the attack on Helgen. For some reason, this prevents any dragons from spawning until you progress the main story. Alduin really is thoughtful, isn't he? With the plan in mind, we would continue the main story on for just a bit longer and head for Whiterun, looting more alchemy ingredients on the way. Outside of Whiterun, we would stop to help the companions defeat a giant, and then promptly tell them they were stinky, swords were lame, and magic was way cooler.
Well, nobody asked you.
With the Jarl informed about Helgen and the dragons put on an indefinite hold, our job was done as far as the main story was concerned. So it was off to an inn to find out where we could learn more about magic. At the inn, we would learn about the college, and so it was finally off to Winterhold to enroll. At least I hope so. As we arrived, the gate was guarded by a college mage, who demanded a small test of our magic to allow us to enter. This required us to buy a spell offer. Not being able to afford it, we would run off to a local inn to sell whatever we could. After barely scraping together just enough to buy the spell, we would see it was a flame match, causing us to quickly relive the trauma of last video. Getting over that, we would attempt to cast the Flame Astronaut, only to realize because of survival mode, we didn't have enough magicka to cast the spell, and now we had to sleep to fix our magicka issues. Running back to the inn again, and selling basically everything we had, we'd managed to buy a room, sleep, and gain just enough magicka to cast the spell, finally allowing us into the college.
Well done.
Entering the college, and we were finally handed our first piece of usable gear and a pair of college robes and a hood. One quick tour of the college later, and we were shown to our new home for the time being. Welcome to your new home! Sitting at a spacious 10 square feet and without a door, this warm and inviting college dorm is a wonderful space to host uninvited guests and practice magic in the frozen wastelands of Skyrim's far north. Having all the amenities you could possibly want, like a bed, chairs for guests to watch you sleep, convenient walking distance to the college, and best of all, lots of privacy. How could you not love your new dorm in the college? The first thing to do for the college was to attend our first classes. Here we learned a simple ward and then got flamed by our professor. With that done, I returned to the dorms and started crafting potions and selling whatever I could to the college's resident vents. With our basic preparations done, we headed off to the Nordic ruins of Sarthal for our first class field trip. After looting the world's most obvious relic, we are blamed by some weird hermits for starting the end of the world. Basically, shrugging it off, Tolfdir and I would begin to explore the ruins, where he would immediately abandon me, leaving me to fight the Draugr all by myself. Here I found out just how lovely it is to use only magic. Oh lordy, that hurt. Oh, what the hell? With some brand new abandonment issues, we continue on before Tolfdir just shows back up like nothing ever happened, just in time for the dungeon boss. He can pretend, but my heart will not forget. The boss fight starts, and while Tolfdir decides to ponder his orb, I get the crap kicked out of me by the boss. Finally, after playing the world's worst game of tag, he is finally able to take damage and defeated. With that done, we are sent back to the college to inform the Archmage about my, and only my, amazing discovery. Our reward for this discovery is a staff. Unfortunately, using staffs in Skyrim doesn't give any XP for magic. Because of this, we plan to avoid using staffs since the XP gained from spells is much more important to us. We are then told the resident Thalmor spy on Kano is looking for me, only for him to play hard to get and pretend like he has better things to do than talk to me. With new questions about the orb, we would speak to the college librarian. He then would send us off to find some stolen books that contain clues about the orb. Now, with the objective of learning to read, we would head off to leave Winterhold. This would prove incredibly difficult because it turns out when survival mode was being created, it didn't really seem to account for the player leaving Winterhold, causing us to freeze to death repeatedly trying to get south to Windhelm. Due to the lag issues and how impossible it was to leave Winterhold, I would just decide to turn off survival mode since technically it wasn't even part of the challenge anyway. Arriving at Felgul Keep, it was finally time to fight some actual mages. Here, we would quickly learn the most important lesson from the college. It doesn't matter how strong of a mage you are, a random no-name NPC mage will always be stronger than you. NPC mages in Skyrim absolutely suck to fight as a mage. They can recover magicka while casting, they are weirdly tanky, and they love to cast wards that block any magic you try and cast. Despite this, we managed to beat the mages outside and begin clearing the ones inside. That is until we come across a Spider Tamer, who probably beats the crap out of me over and over. He even has this audacity to cheat in our mage duel and starts using a knife. How uncivilized. Finally, beating the cheater, we move on to a room full of free XP. Caged vampires. Who, as a upstanding member of the college, we set free. And by that I mean free from their mortal coils. Hey, destruction isn't gonna level itself, okay? Eventually we find the mage who stole the books in the first place. We then choose to set him free since we could really use the extra backup. Especially since by this point I had once again become incredibly fed up with the flame atronach. We try and replace him with a skeleton summon who is really weak but at least actually attacks the enemies instead of just standing there like a JoJo character posing. Finally, we reach the end of the dungeon where we meet the Caller, the leader of the mages, who offers us the stolen books in exchange for leaving the mage behind. Due to my oversized ego and belief that mages are above such acts of evil, ignore the vampires, we say no and begin to fight. After instantly getting humbled a few times and quite a few tries later, we are able to beat the Caller. With that, we are able to grab the books and be on our way. Returning the books to the college, we learn more about the orb. We then tell Tolfdir about the books we definitely read, before being approached by the Rizless, insecure failure of a Thalmor on Kano, who is in a tizzy about the hermits who have come to the college to visit me. One meeting with them later, and we are tasked with talking to the Augur of Dunlane in the midden of the college. Venturing into the midden, we have a conversation with the world's largest flashlight, who then sends us looking for the Staff of Magnus. Reporting this discovery back to the Archmage, that's us some more gear, and we find ourselves heading off after a group of Imperial mages called the Synod. Before we go, I spend a minute buying a new conjure to replace the flame atronach. As we walk to the Dwarven ruins the Synod is in, we get to see our new summon, the Undying Ghost, in action. And oh boy is he an upgrade in every way. Unfortunately, as we clear the dungeon, we start to realize he may be just a little too powerful, and realizing he is a really overpowered Creation Club add-on, I stop using him and switch back to our Bone Boy, instantly making the dungeon much harder to clear. Reaching the end of the dungeon, we find the last living member of the Synod, who seems to be going a little crazy. Using a rock from a dead Synod member, we calibrate a map showing magical power and learn the location of the Staff of Magnus. We also kind of dox the fact the college found something, with the Synod member telling us he plans to tell the Empire we are hiding something. As we go to leave, we are once again spam called by the weird cult with the most unhelpful and cryptic message possible. Seriously, can't you guys just say what's going on? Arriving back at the college, and we find our resident Thalmor spy has gone full power trip and now attempts to harness the Eye of Magnus. After attempting to stop him, we are blown clear. The Archmage is literally blown out of a building and must have gotten some serious airtime, landing dead face first in the snow like some kind of Looney Tunes character. With the Archmage dead and Ancano sealed with the orb, it's now up to us to deal with the magic anomalies that have appeared in Winterhold. After a lovely mid-fight snack and a lot of fire, we are able to deal with the magic anomalies. Ow, stop. As soon as the fighting ends, the courier shows up to give me some random quest. And instantly after that, the Dawn Guard show up to harass me into joining their little club. Pretty convenient how they only show up after the fighting ends. Reporting back to Mirabel, we are given the world's weirdest key, a new necklace, and are sent off to the Labyrinthian. Arriving at the Labyrinthian, there were a few frost trolls patrolling the outside who we had to fight. With them handled, we would then head up to the main entrance where normally a cutscene with the ghost of the Archmage should play, but in typical Skyrim fashion, the cutscene breaks and doesn't load properly. After watching the world's most underqualified mages talk themselves up, we enter a mini boss fight with a bunch of skeletons. Oh no, oh no. This mini boss would fold us like an omelet over and over again, because I am at best a glass cannon. I'm sorry, how? I'm behind a pillar! After a few futile attempts at the fight, we would just try and run past the fight instead. I'm just gonna run for the door like a coward. However, as it felt cowardly, I decided to just go back and try to clear the fight anyway, only to realize that the enemies were actually just frauds. Once I realized that, the fight magically became easy and I began to clean the floor with them, just as they had done to me earlier. Moving on, we continued to clear the dungeon while being shouted at in gibberish by a mana-sucking wizard, all while watching more college frauds get picked off until we reach an ice door. The ice door and its ghost aren't too big of an issue, however the Draugr behind the door introduced me to the floor multiple times. So badly, I eventually retired our skeleton friend again and tried the flame Atronach, who, to no one's surprise, is still just as useless as always. After finally beating them, we are able to move on, and after a few easy fights, I felt great and like things were finally going well for us, making me feel confident. That is, until we reach a gate, which held the most dangerous boss of the entire run. A single, random, unnamed Wisp Mother. When I say this Wisp Mother gave me more trouble than most fights I have had in all of Skyrim, I am not joking. On top of her wisp, she has one hell of a health bar, and since she casts ice spikes, she packs a nasty punch. If she lands one hit, we died instantly, just like in the last video. Oh golly! Finally, after a lot of deaths and tries, I am still determined to win. And so naturally the Wisp Mother glitches and just stops fighting to die in the most anticlimactic death possible. After floating like a butterfly and stinging like a warm summer breeze, we take down some ghost-themed Draugr Deathlords, putting us at the final boss room. With that, it's time for the fight I have been dreading this whole time. A mage's perfect counter, a powerful dragon priest who drains magic. Actually, never mind, it was a super easy fight. Turns out, all you have to do is get the high ground while blasting him with fire, and then just step out of his line of sight to regen, and he can't do anything, and seemingly isn't smart enough to come up and actually fight me. And all game. Huh, well that was kind of underwhelming. With the boss beaten and the staff claim, we get our last cutscene showing the Archmage sealing his former college allies to stop a pushover of a dragon priest. As we try and leave, we are attacked by a Thalmor agent who we promptly humble. Sidebar, it makes no sense how he managed to get in here. He came in from the exit that had been sealed. How did he even get here before me, and how did he manage to know where I was anyway? With the staff in hand, it's time to head back to the college and stop the Eye of Magnus once and for all. After returning to the college, we confront Ancano and get introduced to the word fireball. Turns out standing close is not a good idea, as you will immediately get insta-one-shotted by a fireball at point-blank range. Finally, after a couple fireballs straight to the face, we managed to survive long enough to actually start the fight. From there, we managed to live long enough to close the eye with the staff, while Ancano was distracted fighting magic anomalies. From there, it was just as squishy as we are, and after a few firebolts, he was down for the count. With Onkano dead, it's time to deal with the eye. So of course, none other than Captain Spam Calls comes in to steal my glory, take the eye, and without any authority names us the Archmage. Because it's a Skyrim questline, seemingly everyone in the college just shrugs their shoulders and goes along with it, making us the new Archmage. With the main story completed and being named the Archmage, it was now time to begin all the side quests attached to the college. First, we were tasked by the college's resident crazy person to bring him 10 Dwemercogs. Wait, Dwemercogs? Does this mean we could just grab them earlier when we were in the Dwemer dungeon? Great. Now we gotta go back. Begrudgingly, we head back to the Dwemer dungeon from earlier to grab the cogs. It sounds like a simple task, right? Wrong. Turns out Dwemercogs are A, not easy to find, and B, each weigh 10 pounds. Searching every crack and crevice we can for the Dwemercogs lands us some, but the weight issues start to rear its head, forcing us to drop just about everything not necessary. Going back through the dungeon, and it turns out our Sanad friend is still here. I guess that imperial report of the college's new discovery might be a little late, as the mage seems to have made a choice to blankly stare at a wall for all eternity. To both my joy, dismay, and annoyance, we do manage to find a few more cogs at the end, which leaves us with a new problem. Do we leave them and have to find more cogs elsewhere, or do we take them with us and try and slowly walk outside? We opt to walk outside slowly and then fast travel back to the college. There is one tiny problem though. Turns out you can't fast travel while over encumbered. So now we are stuck slowly walking back. Slowly. Dear God, slowly. My next idea is that since I'm not too far with the carry weight, if I level up and pick stamina 3 times, I should get the 30-ish carry weight needed to fast travel. To level up, I start spam casting Muffle as we walk to level up Illusion. After wasting a level or two, I realized leveling stamina only boosts carry weight by about 5 points, not 10. After that, we give up on leveling stamina and begrudgingly spend the next 30-ish minutes slowly walking all the way back. Finally, at Windhelm, we are able to sell off some of the stuff to a vendor and finally can fast travel back to the college, where we drop off the cogs and everything we could before looking for the last 2. After wandering around looking for a Dwemer ruin in all the places where I just know there's definitely one over here, we finally managed to stumble into one and look for the last few cogs. With the last cog collected, we instantly make a beeline for the door and back to the college. Returning to the college, we hand in the cogs and are given a paltry sum of 500 gold, and are able to start the next phase, which involves getting a staff for the college fence. One very standard dungeon later, and we had defeated a necromancer and collected the staff. With the staff given to the fence, we are able to get the warped soul gem for the crazy guy and move on to the next phase. We learn the experiment Captain Crazy wants to run allows him to recreate the incident that made the Dwemer disappear. Totally, nothing can go wrong there. To do this, we need to take the soul gem to a few different Dwemer chests and use a special fire spell on it to calibrate the gem. Wonder where we have to do this. Oh, you have gotta be kidding me. Looks like it's time for our 3rd trip to the same Dwemer dungeon. After popping into a few Dwemer ruins and one small shrine to toast our weird little marshmallow, it was time to head back once again. Since this quest had a cooldown, I decided to take a small break and work on leveling Restoration for a bit while I waited. To level Restoration, I tried to head to Whiterun, where we kept getting challenged to a duel by a random mage who kept kicking the crap out of me. Seriously, NPC mages are broken. Eventually, he just stopped spawning, and we were able to get to the Hall of the Dead to harass the local sacred Nord dead for Restoration XP. I wonder why magic has a bad rep to the Nords. After leveling Restoration for a while, I decided to pivot to Alteration to protect the little sanity I had left, which would lead me to Riften in search of the spell Detect Life. Here the Stormcloaks would show off their fabled honor by attacking and murdering me when I helped them kill an Imperial soldier, truly proving why they suck and you should never side with them. After realizing your skills have to be a certain level for spells to be available for purchase, I found myself playing tag with the Sabercat outside of Whiterun to level my Alteration to 50. With all of that done, we can finally buy Detect Life and make our way back to Whiterun to level Alteration. Arriving in Whiterun, we instantly gaslight a child about making him invisible and then go on our way. They'll definitely have some trust issues later. Casting Detect Life and running around Whiterun for a while levels our Alteration. The only real downside to this strategy is that we have to hear Nazim ask us if we visit the Cloud District often, over and over again. With that, we finally decide that it's enough distractions and head back to finish the actual side quest. Talking to Captain Crazy, we are sent to negotiate yet another deal with the fence, who tells us this time it's not a problem of payment, but simply that the item never arrived, and now we are sent to go play courier. Heading to Iverstead, we clear a cave full of bears to find our naked courier, claim the dagger, and then get jump scared by Meridia's beacon. Oh god, it's here! No, I will not be taking that, thank you very much. With the dagger returned, it's finally time to learn the fate of the Dwemer. And, well, yeah, turns out replication of an extinction event is not a wise idea. Go figure. On the bright side, we gain a really nice summon, so I call this a win. Next up on the list was to help Briella test some spells. Her first try resulted in us going green. After waiting a few hours, we were back to normal and it was time for round 2. The next attempt would result in us becoming a cow, an Umasume, and lastly finding that dog in us. With new trauma and a new urge to run on racetrack and eat carrots, we were ready for the next quest. With this, we would talk to everyone's favorite Khajiit, Jazargo, to help him test a new flame cloak against the undead. We opt to go through Bleak Falls to test it against the local Draugr population. While using the flame cloak, we would discover a small flaw in that it blows up both the undead, but also us. Returning to Jazargo, he professes his undying love for us for our aid. Last but not least, it was time to speak to Onman, who once again sends us to the fence to broker yet another mage deal, this time to get a family necklace back for Onmund. To do this, the fence wants us to go reacquire a staff which he sold to a vampire and now regrets. Quickly clearing the vampires and then a quick trip to the shrine to cure a vampirism infection, and the staff is acquired. Giving it back to the fence, we get the amulet and we could return it to Onman. Technically not a side quest, but we did decide to help everyone's favorite dementia-having wizard find his almanac, which he forgot about on campus. Kinda like how he forgot about me and abandoned me earlier. Having returned it to him, we finally had completed all the college's side quests, and now it was time to max out each magic skill. After our long walk earlier, we had nearly maxed illusion, so after casting Muffle for a while and reading one skill book we had saved for just this occasion, we'd reached level 100 on illusion, maxing our first skill. Next, we would head back to Whiterun to harass the dead again for restoration XP. This plan wasn't super effective, and eventually the skeleton even chose death by literally fleeing out of the Hall of the Dead and getting himself killed. I couldn't even help but be a little offended that he would rather die than help me level up. After that, we would try casting Equilibrium and healing over and over again for hours, which didn't really level us up nearly as fast as I wanted, so I opted to go back to messing with the undead. We'd make some new potions to sell and buy a new Turn Undead spell, then it was back off to Bleak Falls Barrow again. Our new problem was, just like in the Hall of the Dead, the Draugr would rather try and find new and creative ways to die than be farmed for XP. How selfish. Because of this, we kept having to go deeper to find new Draugrs and had to find new ways to keep them alive, like closing gates to trap them or by body blocking them in doorways. So after spending hours tormenting Draugrs and skeletons using Turn Undead, we would learn there was a much more effective spell for leveling restoration called Repel Undead, and so it was back to the college to get the correct spell. With the correct spell in hand, it was once again back to Bleak Falls for more XP grinding on 4 defenseless Draugr. By this point, I was starting to go mad, and even started naming the Draugr and having conversations with them. It got to a point where I was even starting to treat a pair of them as my fictional sons. Finally, reaching level 100, it was time to say goodbye to my imaginary sons and move on to the end of the dungeon, where we would do the claw puzzle, first try this time, and would quickly take out the boss, as well as get the Dragonstone for later. Back to Whiterun, we began casting Detect Life and running in circles to level alteration. Just like last time, we would hear way too much of Nazim during this time. Finally, after another 30 minutes of non-stop casting, alteration was at 100, and 3 of the 5 skills were now done. After that, we'd spend 30 minutes soul trapping a fox to reach level 100 conjuration. And with that, it was time for the part of the run I had been dreading the most. It was time to max out destruction. To say this would be the most time-consuming part of the run would be an understatement. First, we would try using flames and a healing spell on a horse, which was unbelievably slow. Next, we would try using a fireball on a flame atronach, which wasn't much better. Eventually, we made some destruction robes to lower the price of destruction spells, and went back to using flames and a healing spell on a horse. With a few hours of my life wasted, and most of my remaining sanity gone, we would finally reach level 100 in Destruction, and finally max all spell types. With all the skills maxed, it was time for the final stretch, the reward for all of our hard work. First up was the Conjuration Mastery quest, which had us go up to the roof of the college to summon a Dremora, who we needed to defeat to force him to bring back a sigil stone for us. After learning that range is a mage's best friend, we did manage to beat the Dremora and get the sigil stone. After bringing it back to Phineas, we would gain maybe the worst, most useless spell in all of Skyrim. A flame astronaut that doesn't despawn. This felt like a personal attack on me. With that major disappointment, it was now time for the Restoration quest, which would have us go talk to the living flashbang in the Midden, who would send a bunch of invincible ghosts after us and make us play a game of COD Zombies while naked, which, after surviving long enough, we would be given the Bane of Undead spell, which is basically a repel undead circle. Unfortunately, I don't have much time for a victory lap since these ghosts don't despawn, forcing me to run for my life as fast as possible. Next, it was time for the Destruction Mastery quest, where we would have to take an ancient destruction book to several spots around Skyrim to cast spells on them. First was a ruin near Dawnstar, guarded by skeevers. After casting flames on the book, we were off to the next one. Next would be a ruin south of Riverwood, guarded by some bandits, where we would cast ice on the book. Lastly, we'd be sent to a place in the Reach to cast lightning on the book. Unfortunately, the last ruin was protected by bandits, as well as apparently the world's strongest mage, who, not kidding, killed me way more times than I want to admit, forcing me to even take time to strategize on how to take him out. After dealing with what felt like a boss fight, and casting lightning on the book, we would gain the Firestorm spell, which, after trying it, is kinda terrible, and takes a ton of magicka. Back to the college, it was time for Illusion, which would have us do a scavenger hunt for invisible books scattered around the college. After collecting them all and returning them to Drevis, we would gain a new Frenzy spell. Lastly, for Alteration, we were sent off to a dungeon east of Markarth in search of a dagger that can harvest dragon scales. The dungeon that was, despite being part of a mage's quest, was very poorly designed for magic use, including multiple different objects that if you cast a spell near would get launched and stuck, or would just straight up break your progression. Todd, your game truly never ceases to amaze me. After getting the dagger, we would finish the dungeon and fight maybe the single most underwhelming dragon priest in the game. With the dagger in hand, we just needed a dragon. My original plan was the main story dragon that attacks the watchtower outside of Whiterun, but it turns out he doesn't count, so now we had to go find a new dragon. To find a real dragon, we headed off to the Rift to find a dragon in the middle of the swamp. To say the fight was easy was an understatement. The only issue was the dragon wouldn't land, and hitting him mid-fight was a bit of a headache, but eventually he went down. With that, we were able to use the dagger to get his heart scales, and we were able to head back to college one final time. Giving the heart scales to Toftir, we were able to learn the spell Dragonhide, which may be the only master level spell that wasn't incredibly disappointing. Having fully completed the Mage's College and becoming Skyrim's most powerful mage, there was truly only one thing I could possibly think about using my absolute power on. Having done a full playthrough as a pure mage, I will say it can be fun at times, but honestly, it was more frustrating than anything else. I think overall my opinion on magic may actually have gotten worse after doing this video, since I realized just how poorly balanced a lot of the game is towards playing a mage. With all that said, thank you so very much for watching this video. If you enjoyed, please hit the like button and subscribe. If you have anything else you'd like to see me do in Skyrim or any other games, please let me know in the comments down below. With all that said, I will see all you beautiful leaves in the next video.